What about Jim Blanchard? He was an Oakland County guy.
Forgot about him. Jim and I are good pals today. When I was organizing yet another trade mission, I wanted to go to Canada. Who'd I tap? I asked Jim Blanchard, "Will you come?" Because he used to be the former ambassador there. He could open out a lot of doors. Now, some of my Republican friends were aghast that I would ask a former Democrat governor to go. But think about the advantages of having a guy who was an ambassador there for a number of years, and it worked well like we wanted it to. We got in a lot of doors. Jim, I think, left himself vulnerable. That's how England beat him. Some of his programs were way too modest. I think it was, we were wearing a nickel in those days, showing that that was a net gain if his tax cut was going to be a nickel. And it wasn't enough.
What about your relationship with John Engler? Of course, there was the famous pothole picture.
I was having fun. And that wasn't so much at Engler, although it was in his administration. His director of transportation back on that day, I think that was back, in the 80s, was it?
Yeah.
And everybody was complaining about the potholes, and they were erupting like the surface of the moon.
It was really the 90s.
Was that 90s? Okay.
90s.
Surface of the moon, and his director of transportation said, the potholes this year aren't any worse than any other year. So I called the road commissioner. I got down in a manhole. It wasn't even about potholes, a manhole. About this one, I'm holding up a sign, Governor, what about this pothole? Well, I thought he'd get the humor. Oh my God! I never got invited back to the mansion the rest of his term.
Well, I think that was toward the end of his tenure, so maybe you got a lot of trips early on. But you got along with Engler most of the time.
I still do.
Sure, absolutely.
John's in town, and we get together at different functions, and I consider myself a good friend of his, and he's certainly a good friend of mine.
What about Jennifer Granholm?
Initially got along well with Jennifer. Did a trade mission to Germany, and we did, I thought she was going to be able to get some things done, but I quickly watched her closely because of the impact on my county, her decisions. The lady just could not make a decision, and the longer she sat there and dallied, the worse the situation became. Certainly in business, certainly in her position on taxes was not my position. She raised taxes, the biggest tax increase in history of the state. Then she said, I'll never do it again. I got the headline in my office. And then, of course, a year later, she wants to raise taxes again. So we eventually split company. I think the final nail in the coffin was when I reviewed her book.
How have you gotten along with the County Board of Commissioners over the years?
Initially, you understand, Bill, when I came in here in '92, Murphy, the predecessor, had been gone for basically 2 years because of a stroke. He wasn't coming to the office. Well, you know the rule of physics: where there's a void, somebody's going to fill it. And the board sort of began to move into responsibilities that probably should have been Dan Murphy's, but he wasn't here to protect his turf. So I came in January 1, 1993, and I'm thinking, well, no, this is my responsibility. No, we'll do it, Brooks. No, you won't. So we had some real tug of wars in the beginning. And I remember calling up my friend Ed McNamara about 6-8 months into my first year. I said, Ed, what are your relationships like with the Board of Commissioners? I mean, I'm having trouble with mine. He said, Brooks, I was Wayne County exec for 2 years before I realized the goddamn commissioner wasn't one word.
What did you think of Ed McNamara altogether?
I liked him.
Yeah.
Our friendship was, like, I don't know, some of these anomalies you see, that the cat sitting on the dog's, hat. We got along great. He was, not going to say mentor, that'd be too strong. But remember we had our Brooks and Ed show, or he called it the Ed and Brooks show.
Yeah.
We enjoyed each other's humor. But I called him on a couple of times and say, how would you have handled it early on? But Wayne County, as we know, is different than Oakland County. So I eventually had to start making my own path.
Do you think Macomb County took too long to come up with the office of county executive?
They could have been there a couple of years before, as could Kent County. I mean, an executive form of government, if you would ask me what are the advantages over being run by a county board of commissioners, it's clearly somebody's in charge. Somebody takes the heat. Somebody's got to say, hey, this is the way it's going to be. When you're drifting, you got government by committee, that ain't real efficient.
Well, of course, you have county departments. You got treasurer, clerk, prosecutor. They're running facets of the executive branch in the county.
That's clear.
And, of course, most of our counties, it's 79 counties, don't have a county executive, right? Bay has one.
Bay.
Plus the 3 down here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know that they run as well. I mean, we get calls all the time about how we do our budgeting, how we do this. So they're watching. And I think we can do those things because we have an executive forum that supports that kind of innovation.
Pontiac, once the city most prominently identified with Oakland County, now is a real economic and jobs problem here in the heart of the county. Haven't they actually asked you to take them over? What do you do about Pontiac?
Well, that was the emergency financial manager once removed. We now have a new financial manager there, and he knows we're not going to take over Pontiac. I can't legally and constitutionally absorb a city, and I don't want to. I mean, we're the county that's paid off our legacy costs for health care. We don't owe a dime. It's fully funded in an irrevocable trust. Again, we're the first county and the only county in America to do that. If we went into Pontiac, it'd be something like $300 million in legacy costs. I'm not going to put my taxpayers back into the very situation we got out of and ask them to fund the city of Pontiac's bad management. I think the financial manager is necessary there. He's in there right now, Lou Schemmel, really doing what he has to do. Pontiac doesn't have a police department anymore. It's the sheriff's department. Pontiac doesn't have a fire department anymore. It's the Waterford Township they're working on to do. They don't have a clerk's office. It's Bill Boulder. So he's whittling the size and cost of government down because it's the hole in the donut, and it's unfortunate. Go back about late 1950s, early 1960s, I think, when Bloomfield Township was getting organized, and they invited a subdivision up here by Pine Lake to join their school system. And the subdivision was an affluent community by Pine Lake. So, oh no, we're staying in Pontiac. So there was a day when Pontiac was a desirable community, great schools, great downtown shopping,
right.
And it was a thriving city. And then, what happened to Pontiac, same thing happened to the county. They had all their eggs in General Motors basket. And as General Motors began to move some of their investment away, like they did in Flint, and I'm not being critical of GM, they have the right to run their company, but that began to hurt these cities that had so much investment.
What about the Silver Dome?
What about it?
Well,
you want to buy it?
Well, I mean, I feel bad because that was a big deal in this.
It was built in '74, so it's for I think under $60 million. It was a bargain, 80,000 seats plus. Too big they would get television rights because you couldn't fill it up. And I think the Lions might have stayed there had the negotiations been handled a little differently. The mayor of Pontiac at the time was Walter Moore, and as I understand it, he got up and left the meeting, went home. And so Bill Ford Sr. said, that's it. And so we decided to build their own theater or their own field downtown. The field downtown is, I think, light years ahead of the Silver Dome. It's marvelous. It's a great venue for football.
Once the Lions left, wasn't there any chance for the Silver Dome to be used for anything else on a permanent basis?
Well, on a permanent basis, yeah.
Because the Pistons had already left, too.
Yeah, they had left. Well, it really wasn't a good stadium for basketball. It really wasn't it's really for a single purpose only. It was a stadium. It didn't have any real new adaptive use that followed. A gentleman bought it a couple of years ago, stole it for $540,000. $40,000. And he's trying to make an entertainment venue, but with minimal success. Yeah. So I think really the Dome will probably have a Rikers Ball in its future.
Let me ask you one final question. Has Oakland County plateaued in terms of economic development and population, or is the sky still the limit?
Oh, I don't think we've plateaued at all. I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the projections. I would talk to economists who we hire to help me, see where do you think you're going to be in a given year. And we got a lot of growth, a lot of quality growth. I don't want just growth. I want it to be quality growth. It'll be quality jobs. They'll be here 30, 40 years from now. The medical school just came online in August of this year. So we're still hitting some grand slams, and I don't think the best days of Oakland County, I truly believe, are before us.
And you're going for your sixth term.
Yeah,
next year, right?
It beats working. Yeah, 2012, I'll be out there, and I love the job. And if I was to I could retire now. I'm 72, fully vested. But what would I do? I don't garden. I hate golf. I play it, but because I have to. I don't have the hobbies. I don't gamble. I wouldn't be going to the casino, so I'd be sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. So I'll come in here and sit back and delegate.
L. Brooks Patterson, thank you so much for a really great interview.
William Ballinger, you're more than welcome.
Okay.